What are your thoughts in general about the Big 12 right now? You're a handful of games in. Who's the favorite and who's not?
Well,
no, I don't mean who's not, but, what's going on there?
Yeah, I'd say first, everybody's really good defensively. Like if you looked at the league and said, I was looking at something yesterday that in our league, teams turn it over more than any league in the country. Well, that's because there's really good defensive identities across the board. And so it's physical. Every night's a war. I've been in this league before when there's maybe been more guys that are projected as lottery picks and things like that, or more offense. But right now, everybody's kind of got a defensive, physical demeanor, and so you've got to play to that level. As far as like who are the better teams, and that's hard for me to say. I mean, look, you can look at people's schedules. Certainly, the front end of our conference schedule, if you look at analytics, looks like it's pretty tough. Everybody's got the same games over time, so over 18 games, and whatever it is, the 2+ months, it evens itself out. So I've watched the majority of the games that have happened in our league. It seems like to me that the team that does a better job taking care of the basketball and being more physical seems to win most nights. Now, that doesn't mean every night, but so I think that literally anybody can beat anybody because of how good the league is. And I know what people's records are. I know what's happened in those games, but it's a battle every night, and when you lose one, you got to get back to practice, reboot, and be ready to attack the next one because they keep coming at you. They don't get easier.
I think in the last minute of the game on Tuesday, the default for a lot of coaches has been to use that last timeout that you had. You obviously didn't. Is that philosophy or situational?
I would say probably some of both. We have one timeout remaining. There's different scenarios we would have used it, but when they score a quick basket and you have 7-8 seconds left, that's enough time to get it up the length of the court. And Tyrese did a heck of a job. Caleb inbounded it, flipped it to Tyrese, skipped it opposite. Gabe caught it with 3.5 seconds, to go. So, to get that catch at that point, if you call a timeout, again, and this is a whole different conversation, in the NBA, you get it at midcourt. Well, if we call a timeout there, they're certainly going to slow the ball down or make us throw a long pass that's in jeopardy of being disrupted. So we feel like that was in our best interest. If we had to do it all over again, we'd do the exact same thing because I'll always believe that you put the defense at more of an advantage later in the game when they get to set up, have the guys out there they want, have the switching that they want, the disruption that they want. So I was pleased with the opportunity that we got, and we wouldn't change a thing.
Do you have to make that decision before a game, philosophically? Because if you're trying to make that in real time, you're probably putting a lot of pressure on yourself to make a quick decision under a lot of pressure.
I do. It's important that you think those things through ahead of time and that you have, both philosophy, situational. You could have certain guys fouled out. They could have certain guys out. There's a lot of independent variables, but I think as you go into every game, I don't think coaches are deciding foul up 3 or not up 3 late in the game. I don't think coaches are deciding if they're going to use a timeout there or not. You have your way that you do things and what you believe is in your best interest. And when you are in the heat of the moment or the battle, you go with, what you've worked on or what you believe in. And so I do think game to game you have to evaluate whether you always do the same thing or if depending on the game and the opponent, home, road, whatever, that factors in.
Bigger picture question, but along the same lines, now in year 6 for you as a head coach, do you feel like decisions like that or big picture thoughts, you're fully formed on that, or are you still evaluating every offseason, or what's your process for deciding on those bigger picture philosophical questions?
Yeah, I think as you're a head coach longer, you settle into things that you believe work more effectively based on experience, for sure, whether it's been through success or failure. I also think you have to know your team, and that's probably as important as anything when you're putting a plan together, both as you start the season and then as you approach specific games and special situations, because I've been part of teams that are prolific offensively and figure things out organically. I've been part of teams that's more of a challenge. And then the same on the defensive end. Been part of teams that are really good solving problems defensively and others that aren't. So I do think the longer you do it, you settle in on some things that you believe you believe work the best. But then I think what great coaching is still knowing your team and what they can do the best, because it's not what you as a coach necessarily to me believing the most. It's what can your team execute the best when the game's on the line.
What makes Texas the best scoring defense in the league and in the country?
Well, I think a few things. Number one, their pace of play is very slow, probably the slowest in the league, so there's less possessions in their games, so less possessions is going to be less scoring. I think their switchability, obviously they're, last game they started 6-6 and 6-7 on the front line with 3 experienced guards, and they're switching everything. So, that puts teams on their heels for sure. They will do different things disruptively defensively. They'll go 2-2-1. They'll run and trap a pass. They'll do things to try to put you on their heels. And then also offense goes into that too. They run more motion concepts for the most part, so their offense isn't necessarily like a quick strike unless they turn you over. So part of having a good scoring defense is playing a slower pace if you're going to look at just the points per game, because certainly if you look at the teams that play fast, the other team's going to score more as well. So it all goes hand in hand for them. It's the pace of play. It's how they play offense. It's how they play defense. And so I think that all factors in.
Probably most games in this league are like this, but do you feel like Saturday could be one of those times where it's time and score for you guys on offense, where, like you said, they're going to try and slow you guys down, maybe play into that in a way?
Yeah, and I know that, for us, I'm aware that Texas Tech had a couple guys out when we played them, but that was a physical, gritty game from start to finish. I know it wasn't like a masterpiece if you're a fan in terms of space and pace basketball, but I'd say that everybody that asked questions about how ugly that win was last week is probably saying that was a pretty good win now, because that same team has shown that they can do that. So to me overall, I just think that night in and night out, you've got to figure out what can make your team successful. And so we get asked, are we trying to play faster, slower? We're trying to play a way that gives us the best chance to win. And we believe that that's with a lot of physicality and ball pressure, rebounding, and ball toughness. And when we do those things, we're going to be successful more often than not.
TJ, despite the tough finish Tuesday, you and the team seem, pretty encouraged post-game from, the resilience, the fight of that, obviously. What can you take from a stretch like that, both applying to tomorrow and also the rest of conference season?
Well, when you go on the road, there's certainly different stressors and environment, and, playing there is as tough as probably anywhere in the country to play. And so what happens is when you get down, you have a choice to make. You either doubt yourself, question yourself, get on your heels, become tentative, or you dig in and find a way. And, we were down 9, with whatever it was, 7-8 minutes to go, and we had a choice to make. And our guys decided to dig in, start getting some stops, be more stubborn, and then it kind of came around for us. And we had some timely offense late, both by Brockington and others, to put us in position to have a chance to win. So there's no moral victories. We're not encouraged by close losses. We're, as much as I respect, their program, we're not there to just, hey, give it a good try. We're there to win. But to me, how I'll always gauge our guys is how hard did we fight? How physical were we? Did we value the basketball? Were we tough? Were we resilient? Did we keep competing? All those things happened, and I know that after doing this long enough, if you do that every single night, the outcomes are going to go your way more often than not.
TJ, at least one Iowa State coach before you, going back to what Heinz was talking about, at least one Iowa State coach before you has advocated for the NBA rule on that timeout stuff late. What are your thoughts on that?
It'd just be interesting to me, basketball is so unique that why all the rules aren't unified, I don't have a good answer for it. I'm not some deep thinker, but it's odd that three-point lines are different, that timeout rule is different, that you would think you would want similar rules. I don't know if there's another sport that the rules change based on international, women's, college, pro. Whatever they are, my job is to figure out how to utilize the rules to the best of our ability to be successful. So I wouldn't say I have a specific opinion. Certainly if you have an NBA background, like potentially one of our other former head coaches did, you want the thing that you're more familiar with. To me, it's not necessarily that as much as, I would like to see the game be the same across the board for sure.
To go back to Tuesday for a second, I think there's you and a lot of coaches preach confidence to your players, and then some coaches in the same situation you were in Tuesday night will call a timeout and try to orchestrate every movement there. Do you think players notice that you're giving them the freedom to go execute a game-winning play?
I do. I like your actions speak louder than what your words say, right? And so, like, let's just use Isaiah Brockington, for example. Certainly, we've seen him continue coming into his own offensively, and that's not something he had done before. So it goes far deeper than just saying be aggressive. Like, I'm sure they were saying that. And so when you get in those situations and you tell your players you trust them and believe in them and go make the right play, I feel like you could see that our guys had that confidence. Caleb got it in quickly. Tyrese flew it up. Jazz and Gabe are running on the backside. There wasn't a hesitation. And so I think when there can be times as a coach that you like overcoach it and that there's so much structure that the players feel like they don't have the freedom to trust their instincts. And we want that blend. Certainly we want to give them structure and framework where they can be successful. But in those key moments, we've had a lot of them with Brockington late where he's made some impactful shots. We don't want him looking at us like we're going to, we have some magic. We just want him to be confident and go make the play and make the shot. And we've been fortunate in some close games that Isaiah's gone and done that for us. So we want our whole group to have that confidence, and I think that's important at that point in the game.
Do they know who's shooting that, or is it just kind of whoever, if he was guarded, could it have been Jazz, could it have been Caleb?
Yeah, there's certainly different plays that could have resulted from it, and they loaded to the ball, right? So Tyrese had three guys essentially collapse on the ball, so he wisely skipped it opposite. And, Jazz is running on that backside too, so all of a sudden, he could be the guy opener. Isaiah could be trailing the play. So, three guys can collapse. Caleb can be running behind. So there's a lot of scenarios that could have resulted. I would say this, like Gabe was 4 for 8 from 3 at that point. He literally just made a shot from that exact same spot, maybe a couple inches one way or another. And so if that's the play that it's going to be, like, again, I'm not going to say that we practice every day, skip at the Gabe and shoot it from the spot you just made a 3 in. That would be being overly presumptuous. But it's a shot that we're totally comfortable with, especially based on what happened and what was happening that night, because he was, he was shooting it with confidence. He just made one from there. So I'd have been great with Gabe taking it, as we were. If he'd have decided to take a one dribble pull-up, fine. If he'd have moved it, fine. But Tyrese made a really great play. And we've got to take, the shot that presents itself at that point.
How do you feel like that confidence for Gabe can move forward? Obviously, from 3, he's had his ups and downs this season.
Yeah, no, we have tremendous confidence in Gabe. Gabe is somebody that, from what I've seen, when he's playing elite defense, he's cutting hard, he's staying aggressive, things go his way. And so I was happy to see, look, the first, shot or two didn't go his way on Tuesday. And sometimes guys can kind of get in their own head, and I was happy that he kept powering through it, and how he carried himself, his court demeanor, and his confidence was great. So, look, Gabe's had a lot of impactful college games, and he's got more in front of him. We want him to continue to stay confident and be aggressive, and then take those opportunities when they present itself. And I was happy to see him do that on Tuesday.